Hi, this is Jim, and this is Second Chance, a moped podcast.
And welcome everybody to another week of Second Chance Moped Podcast. I'm kerfuzzled, I'm not gonna lie. I had phone issues this week. I'm getting over my illness. I had a friend stay in my house all week and they cleaned a little bit, but then they thought it'd be funny to hide all my pots on me, and like I don't know what she did with them all. And I'm gonna have to that's all right. Because I got my coffee cups. I got to ride a lot of mopeds. I got to ride a lot. But I didn't get to ride the one I wanted. I blew up one like 2 months ago, and I've been trying to slowly put it together, but it's been nice. So I've been riding. Then I almost got it together tonight, and then I realized I'm missing a spark plug boot cap, and then I had issues with the phone. I had to go to the phone. So nobody cares about this stuff. But I feel better about myself when I talk about all this stuff to all the moped world. But oh my goodness, I had the ride of rides in Minnesota. Yes, 2 days ago. I just threw a thing out. Baker's has really wrecked me for like in city riding. Like now I don't feel comfortable unless I put like 40, 50 miles on a ride easy. Like I love it. Like it changed how I approach riding. And I got old Jake Kane out Sunday, and we went. A lot of people in the Minnesota moped community. We went to the J-Bot show, and that was cool. And everybody was sitting there chit chatting with him. And I just kind of walked up and said, "Dude, I got a bunch of final drive questions for you, but I'm not going to talk moped shit with you here. When do you get back into town?" And he's like, "About 2 weeks. Email me in 2 weeks." So that made me happy. Yeah, dude, like that ride though, like we did like I think we did like something like 70, 80 miles, and it was perfect fall weather. T-shirts rolling like 60 mile an hour, like just stupid fast moped speeds. Like I fucking loved it. Oh man, I just somebody this young kid named Garrett, he's a gas roller, gave me shit. He said I had a death wish because I ride moped so fast. I'm like, nah, dude, I got a life wish because like there's that weird, I don't know, there's that weird thing when you go to that 9,000 RPM, it's that running joke. Life changes at 9,000 RPM, and there is something to that. But my guest I've been kind of watching on Facebook and on Instagram a little bit. Like I see a lot of his unique stuff he has done and is involved in. It's not necessarily all mopeds either. So like I'm okay with that. Hopefully the rest of you kids are, and boys and girls and whatnots. But like I just had to get to know this guest of mine, and like I'll just have him introduce himself right now.
My name is Al Harpam. I'm originally from San Fernando Valley, Southern California, and my first gas-powered ride was a Vespa Chow.
Nice. What
It,
year?
I don't remember. I have a picture of it. I have a picture of me on it. It was rigid,
Awesome. Front
and
and rear? Or chows are always rigid in the rear, but it was rigid up front too.
no, it had the suspension in the front.
Okay, okay.
But
And Al, I gotta stop you for a second. Is that a kitty in the background? Because we love cats here on Second Chance Moped Podcast. Hey buddy. Oh, hey buddy. Oh, I love cats. All right, everybody, we got our cat running for the podcast. It's gonna be a good one. Yeah, so dude, that's rad. Vespa Chow, first moped ever. Like that's
my
dude,
first
that
my first transportation, and I used to ride it from the San Fernando Valley over the Sepulveda Pass, over Mulholland, into Westwood, and then go right around Hollywood.
oh wow, dude. Like I know we got a bunch of listeners out in like the San Fernando Valley and stuff like that, like Anthony Cross Valley, Erico. Like I want to get out there and ride. Like I know there's a lot of straight roads, but there's also a lot of hills and just rad areas to ride. But like, dude, I gotta get out there. Like I hear the land squids are having a rally, and I believe see it's all foreign to me, California, because I'm just a Minnesota kid. So like I gotta get out and ride there though, dude. Like
Well, the land squids are central. Like I'm in Fresno now. I grew up in Southern California, but I'm in Central California now. and Sacramento is north of us, still in Central California. We're like Central California is a giant ag producing area,
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of like the Midwest
Mm-hmm.
on the west.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but they have a river system. Sacramento is like another world. They have all these old bridges, and you're
Mm-hmm.
running against like and the land squids, they're fast riders. The creatures of the loin would come out. They would alternate back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So the creatures would come out and support them as well. So it's always like a good bunch. And They have the Lost Boys out there. They got actually
Yeah.
a couple. Yeah, they got a couple moped clubs in Sacramento, so it's kind of banging. Fresno is deader than a doornail.
Aw, dude, that sounds about like my luck with some stuff. Like you're close, but not quite there. Um,
Yeah.
so so here on Second Chance Moped Podcast, we go through people's moped journey, or we can do scooter if you wish, whatever. First time they saw it, you already talked about that. Middle part and what it's like today. So Al, you talked about the very first time you rode one. Um, do you remember? Was that like the first time you saw it, or like how did that all come to be? Was it like, here's a moped, what's this? Or like, did you always kind of remember seeing them growing up out there?
Well, it was the '70s, so the gas
Yeah.
crunch. So I mean, they had them in the shows. I mean, Charlie's Angels were riding them. I mean, everybody's riding a moped, right? It was in vogue, especially
Hmm.
for Southern California. But this one came from my cousin, and then a couple of my friends got them. And it's funny because my friend got a Motobicane. I just the single speed Chow, and my friend had a Motobicane, and it was so fast. It
Oh yeah,
was
dude.
unbelievably fast and reliable too. See, that's our other little kitty cat right there.
Oh, hey, kitty, kitty. Yes, people, we're having cat chat in the middle of a podcast because
Uh,
I tried to give that idea to Moped Monday, and I don't think Jason wanted any part of Four Paws a cat chat, but whatever. Um, but no, dude, that's rad. And I was gonna kind of ask you, what was the predominant bikes out in California? Because like, I have a good family friend who like had a moped back in the '70s or early '80s, late '70s, and it was Iowa, so everything was Puch or Honda. Like that's all you saw.
Man, that's a tough call because I want to say it was a good variety. I mean, I think that because Los Angeles had so many people on the gas crunch, they probably had a lot of different distributors because there's so many people in LA.
Okay.
And it was like because they had it in like the movies, they had it in the commercials. I mean, it was totally acceptable for businessmen to ride mopeds to work because of the gas crunch and all that. So there was like, I mean, LA probably has they probably had a ton of like old mopeds to pick from when the revival came back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you talk about having one just for necessity for riding, school, stuff like that. And I imagine, were you one of the people that always stayed with like a scooter or a moped throughout your life, or did you kind of set it down for a while and get kind of pick it back up? Like how did that? I'm kind of wondering how did mopeds fit into your life, or how did scooters? Because I see you do a lot of scooter stuff as well. That's why I keep bringing it up.
Yeah. So my first original love, I didn't use the moped as transportation as much as getting over the hill and riding around Hollywood and going to like shows and stuff like that. So my first taste of freedom was that Chow. So
Mm-hmm.
my heart was always in the moped. But my friends, they had 200cc scooters, the Vespas. My friends and I were part of like the anti-racist mod ska, rude boy, traditional skinhead scene of like Hollywood,
Yeah, yeah.
and so we were started riding scooters, and at the time the freeway was 55 miles an hour, so we would literally be able to ride a pack of scooters to like San Diego or to
Dude.
Orange. I mean,
Hell
so
yeah.
it's like we were in high school, so this was a crazy amount of freedom, and gas was cheap, so you could literally like, I mean, to go out on a Friday night to Hollywood, I could put $1 worth of gas or $1.50 worth of gas and go get $1.50 40 ouncer, and that was like,
Nice, dude.
yeah, what I'm saying? That would be like, and the $1.50 would get me there and back. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, dude, that's still kind of nuts. So, like, one of my test roads here is a county road in Minnesota. It's a 4-lane county road, but like I'm in St. Paul, so like that's the capital of Minnesota. So like it's still very busy. But like one of my sick little pleasures is just getting my Hobbit going and like passing cars on this 4 line. People like give me like, what the fuck kind of like I don't know. So
Totally.
like it and I'm sure you guys got plenty of that with scooters going down the highway, like people just kind of looking at you like you're aliens or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially now because there's a handful of them that will do a cannonball run.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then there's people that like they still like I've been in too many crashes, so going long distance is just painful for me. But like my friends will ride from like SoCal to San Francisco, or I mean they'll go from they still will ride hundreds of miles like to a rally.
Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. It's always something I wanted to do, but like I'm just we're so spread out here. Like for like the Midwest, for me, the closest stuff is going to be like either like a ride down in Lawrence, Kansas, or
Mm.
like jumping over to Milwaukee for riding with crank pipes, or like I've been hitting a lot of stuff in Ohio the last year and a half or so. So like that's like 8-9 hours, but I mean I did, and that's like bringing a bike with me on the car, but like I did Baker's this year, which was a trip. I mean, that
Yeah,
was
I'm following that.
yeah, dude, I'm getting pretty excited for the next year's one. We're starting out in the Salt Flats. So like
Wow.
yeah. But
Yeah.
so you talk about like going to scooter stuff, like how, and you seem like you kind of have lived both lives, and like in Minnesota kind of sucks, and I'll say that because like there's a huge separate like life's pack anything, and like it goes both ways, and like I came into the scene way late, so I didn't know all the resentments, so I don't care. And I'll give scooter people shit, and I'll give moped people shit. Like
Yeah.
I'll mess with anybody, but like, what did you notice early on, like the difference between like riding with scooter people versus like moped people? Because like in Minnesota, like right now, I can say moped people for the most part, it's just like punk rock anarchy run, versus like scooter people, it's like parade line. We're not going to pass each other. It's very proper. Like you're going to signal all your turns, and I don't care if you're going to run over that person going up a hill, you don't pass.
Yeah, no, that sounds kind of like the automatic scooter group. Like the two-stroke shifter group is
Mm-hmm.
a lot more like the moped guys. Although, so after like, when I went from the Chow to a Vespa P200, um, then my friends and I, we were mods. We had like the big lights and stuff like that. And then things changed and whatever. And then so because I would have to take one of the canyons over from San Fernando Valley to Hollywood every time,
Mm.
I slowly got into canyon racing on my scooter.
Okay, explain that to me a little bit, like canyon racing.
So canyon racing is like, so if you ever look up like the Mulholland Snake or Mulholland Drive or Coldwater Canyon or any of these, there's all like famous canyons that go from San Fernando Valley to the Hollywood side. Mulholland Drive rides on the peak of the mountain range. So
Mm-hmm.
you see part of the valley, then you see part of Hollywood, then part of the valley, part of Hollywood, and they used to race back there on Mulholland Drive in the 50s and the 60s. And if you've ever heard the Beach Boys song "Dead Man's Curve,"
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
that's sunset towards the beach. So I mean, there was like racing in the canyons was totally Southern California, and at least in my in my neighborhood and the high school that I went to, people would take like the small Japanese cars and tub them out and make them like set up for canyon racing. So it's kind of like a natural thing. And then so then we went from mods to scooter boys, and then it was about performance and stuff like that. And then that's when I started learning about how to alter the engines. And then I ended up taking a break from the scooters because I wanted to go faster, and I got into two-stroke motorcycles.
Okay, yeah, dude, that's scary speed there. Like you just all yeah. Want to talk about that a bit? Like
Well,
that.
that's the mopeds and scooters are fun. The motorcycles are serious fun. Like it's like because the things are different at 80. The bike is heavier. Doesn't the turning is all that stuff. You have to turn way earlier. The faster you go, the farther you have to start thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
and the faster you go, the heavier it gets. That's the theory of relativity, right?
Yeah, yeah. But that's what I try to explain to some people. Like that's what I love about like mopeds, especially like there's something weird about that power to weight ratio you get with them that like you're on this little bumblebee and you're flying on the edge of the lightning bolt. It sounds cheesy as shit, but it's like, dude, that's the best way I can explain it. Like just edge of the lightning bolt.
And I have like, 1,000 cc 1987 1,000 cc FCR. It'll do 90 miles an hour in second gear and push your eyeballs back in the head. But it's a giant. It feels like you're riding like it's giant. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
It's like, so the like riding a fast moped is completely different experience, but equally exciting.
Yeah,
But your life is not totally at risk,
yeah,
because at 90, there's nothing you can do. You're going to
you're
slow down.
dead.
Yeah, you can slow down as fast as you can, but if a car steps out, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But to scale, doing like 60, 70 on a moped is like doing 100 plus on a super. It
Yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, dude, I know.
Yeah. So I mean, so then that's why it's like I have a Hobbit I have to put together. I have a 103 I got to put together. I got some super trick stuff from Treats. I have all the Treats CVT. I'm running a
Hmm.
Wizard kit. I'm running a Wizard kit, 21 carburetor. Call it. Maybe go to a 24 because I got the manifold for it. But running the big reed, the G104, and start
Yeah.
there. And then from there, I have a case that's set up for a metric kit.
I am a huge fan of the Metric Kit. Huge fan. Like I've got a setup like the bike I was riding on Saturday, man, and I was going 55, 60, and like my temps weren't breaking 320. Like
What?
I'm telling you, all you need to do for those Metric Kits is just dial that HPI back to 1.5 and
Mm,
just start lightening your weights up and have a good pipe. Like I got a crank pipe on mine, and I don't even know which one was on that one, to be honest with everybody, not even trying to sound like a jerk. But like I got I got like a bigger one and a smaller one. I think I had a bigger one on. Hit Ryan up, he'll tell you what I run.
sure.
He'll sell you a pipe, like no problem. Like there's shout out for Ryan.
Yeah.
Um Great guy. And like that bike just it'll run 310 all day, and like in town 230. Like it's ice cold and I love it.
What size carburetor?
19.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
is it the stock head out of the box?
No, I'm cheating. I'm going all the way Derby. I went Derby head on that as well. The big Derby metric kit head they'll sell with that metric kit. Like
Okay.
that big one. I run that, and
You-
I'm running the V-Force 8 pedal reed. Like
Yeah.
cuz
So
I
wait,
figure
when
what
you
was that?
say, I was to say, I'm trying to figure out which head. So do you mean it's like the big air cell one?
Nope. They cut Treat took a Derby head
Yep.
and they had a cast and they drilled it out to fit the Hobbit. So that Metric Kit head
Yes.
that would come with the Derbies all the time, they have one for a Honda.
Yeah, and then just so I don't, it's funny because you don't know this, and this is gonna be a good place for you to know and understand this. Uh, all the custom heads that Treat sells
Yep.
are machined by me.
Dude, awesome. Thank you. You do an awesome job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I love that head. That drop cuz I was running like DRs and I was running this OEM head, and as soon as I put one of those Derby heads on, it dropped 30 degrees. Like just go with the sport tune, get your squish right. And like I've ran both styles. Like get your squish down to like 1.3, and if you want it really cool like 1.4, like you're good to go. Like I don't know, one way bearing. Yeah, all day long. Like
HF 1616.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, dude, I love like I think Charlie Buzzard said it to me years ago, dude, one way the world. Like
Right.
just throw
Yeah,
a one way bearing on, call it good, grease it up. Like
absolutely.
yeah, cuz I remember seeing you machine some CVT or CVT parts and stuff like that. like, how did you like get into building motors? Like, that's one thing I wanted to talk to you more and more about, because you build all. I'm assuming from what I've seen, you build all types of 2-cycle motors. Like, I see you kind of playing with some like water sports stuff and like just everything, dude. And I think that's rad as fuck. Like,
They're all the same.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, the originally it was because we couldn't afford, we couldn't afford to pay the mechanics. You pay after paying, like, take your scooter into the dealer and have them work on it. You say, you know what, I'm gonna learn how to do this myself, because that guy I just spent all my beer money for 2 weeks on that, having a cable changed,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Uh, but so yeah, and then it was just little by little, and then I was able to, when I moved to Fresno, I was lucky enough to work for a company called High Rev Engineering, which was a racing cart, a two-stroke racing cart shop.
I heard. See, I was also in. Everybody's gonna be sick of this by now, but like, I used to race go karts all over the Midwest. I was a
Oh,
dirt racer, so like,
oh,
yeah, like, and I'd jump on 2 cycles every once in a while, and that was nuts. But like, Buller built carts and stuff like that. I was sponsored by them out of Nebraska, so like, yeah,
yeah,
no, get set.
that's
Next, you're gonna tell me you're a wrestling fan and gonna hit all my spots for me. But
that's awesome. Yeah.
but
So,
no,
uh,
Cali, I never got out and raced. Like, I was always hoping to hit some street races out there back in the day, but just never wasn't meant to be.
right. And that's yeah, that's cool. I mean, and racing regular, that shapes you. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah, and that was, see, for me, that was one thing that really made me fall in love with mopeds, because there's some weird power to weight ratio that carts have that mopeds have. It's that light with high revving motors. Like, there's just some magic thing that happens in me that, like, I just become happy, and
Yeah.
like, happen in carts, happen in mopeds.
It's in there's and there's other, I mean, the mopeds aesthetically, I mean, there's nothing like it. There's other, like, two-stroke engines that are, in small frames and high revving. There's like all kinds of cool, like, vintage motorcycles that are
Hmm.
like moped like 80 cc motorcycles or rockets,
Yeah.
125, 125s, those set up correctly, you can start, you can touch 100.
Yeah, oh
You know?
yeah. Like, those 125 dirt bikes, dude, those things were freaking nuts back in the day because they're so light and so snappy.
And then put that same kind of power plant, but change for the street in a street frame, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So like, you're talking a little bit about early days and scooters and mopeds. Like, did you start to get outside of California in any of your two-wheel adventures for like scooters? Like, because for like me in the Midwest and a lot of people, like, it's all about like the weekly ride or like going to a big rally once or twice a year. Like, did you have that kind of going for you? Did you go to any big scooter deals or big moped deals back in the day? Or
Well, as far as like mopeds, Tony Simoni, who is also like, he's one of our vintage scooter icons as far as like developing. He was like the backbone of a race shop called Vespa House, and they were
Mhm.
like super winning. And then so he was, I believe, I don't know all of what goes on in what went on with Motomatic, but Tony Simoni is the real two-stroke engineer who can, like, do all the calculations, execute all those calculations in physical form, and then make the expansion chamber, and then make the expansion chamber fit on something. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm.
I don't know what skill level the Motomatic guys had before Tony showed up, but I can definitely, he's the one that helped Sacramento with them winning so much.
Yeah. I know Mike Rafter, I had him on early show. It's pretty bad. It's me just talking the whole damn time like I kind of feel like I'm doing now, but he had nothing but high praise for Tony Simone. Like,
Yeah.
he goes, dude, that guy is just rad and awesome, and just, yeah, put an HPI on anything and just make it rip. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So the scooter industry for me was dying. The trolls were just all over me. It was just time. And so as that was going, I tried to get, into a different part of the vintage industry, which is called the Limbrettas, but it didn't work. So because it's kind of like a Ford Chevy rivalry. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you work on Vespas, you can't work on Librettas, and I'm like, the two strokes are all the same. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so as that was closing down, Tony Simone took me to the Creatures Rally.
Mm-hmm.
That was by far the craziest thing on two wheels I've ever done.
Yeah.
Ever done. Creatures Rally was absolutely, it was so rad. I mean, and so crazy. At one point, Tony and I pulled over and was like, dude, we can't go any further because we're afraid of losing, because we're afraid of our licenses. You know what I'm saying? Because Tony has to professionally drive. He can't lose his license. And it was just getting crazy. And we were part of it too. We're driving on the side of the street. I mean, it was total mayhem. And so anyway, so we broke off from the rally because it was so crazy.
Dude,
But
that's awesome.
I mean, we enjoyed, like, I mean, it was awesome. And what happened too is, like, when the rally got to wherever their destination was, there was cops waiting for them. That's how crazy that rally was, right?
Dude,
Uh,
do you remember what rally which one that was or what year that was?
and I think it was like 5 years ago or something.
Okay.
I'm so terrible. Benji told me, he goes, go to this rally. He goes, because the creatures are losing steam. This is like, but make sure you make this one because this will be a good one. And that's when, because the Sacramento guys, Land Squids and um, the creatures would go back and forth. They would alternate
Mm-hmm.
so they always had like a good group.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
got to ride a little, like, I got to know Maitland pretty well this summer at Baker's and at Mosquito Fleet, and I got to meet Ryan Montana. And, like, just riding behind Ryan Montana, that boy can it's the best way I can describe how Ryan, who is a creature, like, rides is just smooth. Like, he just in control and, like, splitting lanes like nothing. And I'm a Minnesota guy. We don't do that shit. Like, Ryan,
Uh,
I'm just following Ryan the whole time. Like, God damn, this guy is just one smooth cat. Like,
Ryan's originally from Fresno.
oh, right on. Like, cool motherfucker. That's all I'll say about Ryan Montana. Just cool.
When we were on that, when I was on the Creatures Rally, uh, they were splitting lanes at like full blast.
Jeez.
I split lanes, but I've never split lanes full blast.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, it was,
that's
they
what
would
you
come
hear
on.
about those old creature rallies. Like, dude, they are just, and then, like, I want to hit one so bad if they have another one. Like, you always hear, certain groups, you always hear the rumor, oh, it's their last one, and then another one happens. But, like, I feel really lucky I got out to Mosquito Fleet and got to ride with those guys because they ride like how I like to ride, just wide open, just fuck it.
That's Seattle.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Those guys were there at that rally.
Yeah. So what you say like you said, you machine the heads for treats and stuff like that. What's your job now? Like, how did you get into, like, just building motors? Because I see, like, you've built some of the Simonini Vespa motors, correct? Like,
Correct.
I want to know what the hell. Okay, that's like the unobtainium nobody can get. It seems like in moped world. Like, what were they? How did they become to be, and what happened? Do you know anything about Simonini or like?
Oh well, Simonini's a long time. I believe that Simonini's been part of the two-stroke industry for a super long time. Now, I don't know if, like, I haven't seen any Simonini racing motorcycles, but like, like Gorelli,
Mm-hmm.
they raced motorcycles. Tomos raced motorcycles. Pook raced motorcycles. So Simonini could have just been like a casting house that was doing like performance support.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know I'm familiar with the company Simonini mostly from the expansion chambers that we used on the vintage stuff.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but yeah, the first time I'd ever seen the Simonini 90cc engine was in an ad, and I asked Benji about it because at the time I had a Vespa Grande,
Yeah.
and I was trying to go. I was trying to go fast. That's all I had. Finally, and then when I got my Hobbit, I was like, okay, I'm on it. But Benji was like, oh, those motors are super difficult to tune. They blow up all the time. People normally don't, they can't keep them running. And I'm just like, okay, well, less compression, less timing, I don't know. And but anyways, Benji was like, maybe it was because I was too new into mopeds, and he's just like, not for you right now, dude. I don't know. But do you know who? Oh my gosh, it's not Aaron. Andy. Do you know who Andy is? Who's a part of Treats, but he's out
Yeah,
of
Michigan,
is that Detroit?
Detroit. Yeah, I know Andy. Yeah, funny
So
cat.
so Andy is the engineer.
Yep,
All those, yeah.
yep.
And so anyway, so that disc motor is Andy's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
and actually,
Andy,
Andy's best friend lives like 3 miles from me, Lee Pinkerton. So like, who gets some of Andy's like experimental projects to work on as well.
that's time.
Yeah. So
Um,
okay, and I've seen Simonini motors, and like I don't ever want to ride one because I never want to. I don't want to have a freak of a chance to blow them up because
uh,
they're
just no, it's just a matter of just making them. Like most of them are set up for race gas, and people use them on the street. There's just not enough education out there for them. But if you just set it up for with street gas compression, see that was the thing when I came into the moped industry. All the heads were way too high compression, all
mm-hmm,
of them, and high compression is the enemy to air cooled. And
mm-hmm.
so it's like if you the and but people don't realize is that the bigger the belly of the expansion chamber, the more amplitude, the more compression that pipe's going to make. So, and now there's a certain amount of compression that falls off with RPM. So you have to find just the right amount of compression to start with, so that when your pipe comes on, it's not doubling down and all of a sudden becomes resistance to RPMs. And then that becomes mix starting to heat up.
So you're the guy who I need to hang out with and just listen to talk all day long because like this is the stuff that like I know a feel I'm looking for in a bike always. I don't necessarily know how to get there, and I'll just beat my knuckles against the concrete until I get it. And like right now, I'm starting to play with French bikes, starting to tiny bit, little bit,
Yeah,
and like,
I got a 103 with the 80s Melosi kit I have to put together.
well, you saw that Mondial I picked up 2 weeks ago, didn't you?
I don't know if I saw that.
Oh, dude, I'll send you a picture of it. I'll give this secret to anybody because I don't care because I don't look for mopeds anymore. I
Yeah.
just typed in Pook in Facebook Marketplace, and like I'm just scrolling. All of a sudden, I see this blue thing. I'm like, what the fuck? And I kind of widen out, and I just hit the guy up. I go, how much do you want for that? And he told me. I'm like, yeah, sold. And like, it was a Mondial. Like I got it for cheaper than
What's
I
a
get Hobbits.
what's a
The
month?
Batavis Mondial. It's the sister bike to the Grand Prix that has a Peugeot 103 motor on it.
Wait, that's the way they came?
Yeah.
Whoa, okay, because I saw a guy on the Creatures Rally that had a Grand Prix and he had wrapped it in some kind of like metallic.
Yep.
Uh and he had a 103 engine in there, but I thought he swapped it.
Nope. I think Clyde or somebody at Treats like last year because I bought it. Lee and I went out east last year, and I'll send you a link for the whole damn story. We got a couple Grand Prix, and Lee picked up a Mondial, and like I think it was Clyde or somebody at Treats told me they believe there's only 2,500 of the Grand Prix made, and they have no idea how many Mondials are made. They're an ultra rare French, and I say that in quotation marks, French bike, even though they were made in Holland, but with a 103 motor. It was like, it's just nuts. And like, oh yeah, that blue on there is probably my favorite blue. Like it pops just right. And like, but you know, I got hobbits to build and a baker's bike to build, and you know, we'll see if that gets done. I've got plans for a Pook I want to do, but it's like, you know how it is when it comes to bikes. We always have, you know, not enough time and not enough money. Like that's just the way it goes.
Well, this is the way I've done. I have 18.
Yeah,
So
I think I'm
but
batting at like 12 right now.
so when you come across a deal, you got to get it. So I mean, but
Exactly.
ultimately the best way to do it is to try to focus on one, but then that can be expensive. But so if you're looking for like me, I've been putting together these 18 bikes for like 20 years. And so they're all super close.
Yeah. Newt. So what's your daily rider right now then? Well, if you have a bike, it doesn't matter, scooter or moped, but like if you're going to jump on a bike, what are you jumping on?
The only thing that I have running right now is 1978 Vespa P200. It was given to me by my friend Dave Dubner, who owns Uncle Vito's Pizza in San Francisco. And it used to be the Uncle Vito Pizza race bike. And
Okay.
I almost lost my leg on it.
Oh
So
wow.
Dave kept the race motor and he was done with the chassis. And I love that bike because it has soul. And part of the reason why it has soul is because Dave and four other guys rode Vespa P200s in the mid 90s to the Vespa factory in Italy for the 40th anniversary and won furthest traveled. So
Dude,
this
that's awesome.
chassis, one of the bikes blew up in Europe, so I didn't make it, but four of them did, and this was one of them that did.
That's super 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 rad, dude.
Yeah.
Um and like for moped stuff, you said you hit the Creatures Rally. Have you hit much for rallies for moped stuff?
I want to, and the reason why I haven't is that my wife and I were putting together a business, and so everything is on hold.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I haven't built a Vespa for myself in 10 years. And so in 2019, I finally built one for myself. So next on the block is my Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then probably my Vespa small frame. And then after that, possibly a motorcycle. But I would love to do a rally in LA where my old stomping grounds.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
would love, I mean,
Yeah,
my
that
Hobbit, go ahead.
no, no, I'm sorry for interrupting.
My Hobbit did really well in San Francisco. I'd geared it right. I'd set it up. It could do wheelies like it was. I mean, and it would blast up the hills. And anybody that didn't have their moped set correctly were just getting left.
Oh yeah.
It was so awesome. And I was wearing my '70s Ferragamo moped racing leathers, which are basically like leather pajamas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
dude. That's
no pad.
rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. There's nothing. I'm still like, single speeds are rad, and I dig them. Like, there's still nothing set that can speak for a setup bike. Just a properly set up Hobbit. I don't know. Just when it's just riding on that rear tire and just when you're at speed and just almost lifting that front tire the whole time, like, they're just. That's one of the greatest feelings in the world for me. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because like it's it's easier to do that on a moped. Everything else becomes more difficult. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So you can have that experience of that right on the edge, where you're like, lifting or you just got that acceleration. You're gonna find that on a moped easier, that enjoyment, that level of enjoyment on anything else. Because when it gets bigger, it's got to go faster. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So it just becomes more dangerous, I guess.
Oh no, totally agree with you on that. Like, speaking of dangerous, like, I was talking to people and like I didn't think about it that much. Like, this year at Baker's going down Mountain Hood going into Portland, I had no rear brakes. I had front brakes only. Like, everyone's like, "What? That was a terrible." I'm like, "Don't worry, they were disc brakes, so I was good to go." Like,
Yeah,
um,
I have a old drum off of like actually it's off of a Honda NS50, but it's so dialed in. I mean, I can pull a stompy. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But does anybody have brakes on their rear? I mean, does anybody have rear brakes on their Hobbit? I mean, does anybody?
they're suggestive. They're kind of there. Like,
Yeah, like I'm
but
pulling your brake because
yeah.
like
It just it's just a little more resistance. That's why I always jokingly said. Like, I remember one year, like, I had no bikes with rear brakes, and that was my winter goal, is to have bikes with rear brakes.
all right.
Um, so what is one of your, you talked about it a little bit, but like when it comes to building moped motors, what's some of the bigger mistakes you see people make on them? Like, you talked about, backing down the timing, backing down the compression. Like, what are some of, like, stuff like that, just for people who are listening? Because I truly know you know what you're doing when it comes to motors. Do you have any like simple things like that to kind of dial into people?
Yeah, it's try to do the research if you're gonna buy a kit. Do the research and understand that if it's a kit that comes all together in a box, most likely it's set up for race gas. So, I mean, you can back the timing off, you can, upjet, but you're still always going to be dealing with a cylinder that has too much compression, and you're going to be fighting temperature spikes because the compression is meant for race gas, which is super lazy. Race gas is super lazy. That's why it doesn't ignite under those crazy conditions. So, if they can do enough research to find the right kind of head for their application, then and it's funny too, because I need to kind of go back and write comments on all these different heads and stuff like that, because our Super Street is like the performance, but the Sport Touring has a lower compression ratio, but it's actually more tolerant to a more efficient pipe. So if you have high compression and a really efficient pipe, you'll end up building too much cylinder pressure, and it can be resistance to RPMs, and it just will build temperature, and then a temperature, and then all of a sudden you're lean. When your temperature goes up, your jetting is going to go lean. So it's just a matter of trying to do the research. I know a lot of these things don't come with detailed instructions, or it's some kind of translation. But just understand that anything that comes out of a box with the head and the cylinder, it's probably, unless stated, street, it's probably going to be for race gas. And people buying those kits not knowing that that's specifically made for race gas are always going to suffer. They're probably going to have cylinder damage, or they're just going to be frustrated because they can't control the temperatures with pump gas. No matter, you jet it, and then now you have something that's unreliable because it's so overjetted and it has to come up to operating temperature in order for that jetting to apply. Then it's just wackiness. So it's just, in general, people want to associate high compression with performance, and high compression is performance for 4 strokes. High compression is performance for 2 strokes that use mufflers and also static or advanced timing. But that's another kind of power. It's actually kind of like a modern 4-stroke power. Using high compression, you have that immediate torque, and then you have an ignition that advances, which keeps that compression going, keeps the torque going as the RPMs build. And then so that's just another. So the vintage scooters, everybody's about expansion chambers. Now everybody's going to what they call a box pipe and using static ignitions instead of the auto retard ignitions. And it'd be interesting to see if the mopeds, I've talked to Benji about that, if the mopeds will go that direction too, because it's a different kind of power plant. And because using a muffler, it's quiet.
Yeah, but you know what? There's still that punk rock kid in me that loves to see like the moms and kids plug their ears. But no, it'd be nice to have.
Yeah, how old are you?
40.
Okay. Well, so I mean, and I have a G104 on my Hobbit, so I'm right. But I'm just saying is that there are people that I know that live in neighborhoods where they get so much heat that they don't enjoy riding their moped anymore because they get so much backlash.
Yeah, dude, and I'm an asshole. I'll be the first one to admit, like, I'm an asshole like that. Like, I'm not normal. It would be nice to have like a quieter bike. I won't lie about that.
But you know what? And so check this out too. So because I run a Jim Lewis pipe on my Vespa 200, which got a Polini kit, it's a 208. But I have neighbors, and I'm 54, and I don't want to. When you're younger, you can be like, "Screw you," But I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry," So what I ended up figuring out was to take the silencer, and this is borrowed technology from a company called Motomo. Motomo was an expansion chamber company that was made for shifter carts.
Okay.
And so what it is, it's a silencer. When you look inside the silencer, we had a Motomo, and we took it to my friend's motorcycle shop so he could help us dial it in, because he specialized in the 125s. And we just could not believe how quiet this cart was. And he goes, "This has to be an interference style muffler, that doesn't go all the way through." And so we took, we disconnected the silencer from the stinger, and sure enough, it went through. But when we shined a light in there, there was a big cavity. So when the pressure came out of the silencer, it went into this big volume, and then went back down into the regular silencer stinger volume or diameter, right? And so that when I was explaining to my friend who's an engineer, he said, "Oh, well, that's probably a cross cancellation chamber." So when the sound right, so when the sound this, I mean, it just depends on how deep you want to go. So, anyways,
No,
so
dude,
what?
I'm there with you. I might not follow you the whole way, but I'll fucking try.
Okay, so anyway, so what he was saying is that as the sound wave goes into that chamber, it gets reflected at the right time to cancel the next sound wave coming in.
Okay, I dig that. Yeah, yeah.
So it gets reflected at a specific. So the shifter cards come up to an RPM and then shift. So they're always sitting at a specific RPM, and that's why that particular chamber worked, because it was timed to be reflective at that RPM. So it was the most quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go over that, it becomes a multiplier.
So
So
okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's almost your rev limiter in a sense. If you're running that cart and you notice it getting loud, you got to shift right then.
yeah, that'd be good, definitely. So then what I did for my Jim Loomis is that I took and cut my actually, you know what? In this case, I didn't. I left the whole stinger, the length, but I rolled another piece of perforated that would give me just a thin layer of the fiberglass on the outside between the outside of the perforation and the inside of the can. So I still had sound dampening material, but it was thinner on this larger volume. And then when the neck down, it became thicker material, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when the sound wave comes out of the stinger, it goes into that larger volume. And so that drops the pressure. So dropping the pressure drops the sound. It drops the tone. So
Okay.
instead of having rap that goes brr, it's just like any kind of like musical instrument. So
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden change the volume so that it's changed the tone. And I can roll past the cop with an expansion chamber with the silencer that came with it. I can roll past a motorcycle cop and they won't trip. And in California, they want to trip.
Yeah, yeah. So what does that do to your cylinder then by changing your silencer? And I mean, what does that do for like cylinder performance? Do you got to change your port timing, or do you have to do anything like that? That's
That's a good question. It doesn't have any effect. The
Mhm.
silencer, like kind of like the last part of the pipe, and of course, if it was too small, it would cause a problem. And if it's too big, it can't really dampen the sound, that well. But typically, most of everything that's happening in the pipe is already done, and it's just a pressure bleed off.
Hmm. Okay. No, that's yeah. Now I'm processing everything and thinking how I can apply it in my little world. Um
Well, making that change in the shape inside the silencer by giving it a larger volume, just a step up and then steps back down. Just that change in volume will make it quieter. You don't lose any performance,
hmm,
but
right on.
your neighbors will love you.
No, my neighbor like I have a great neighborhood. I have a great neighborhood because we don't rat on each other here. um but
Well, thanks.
like I make sure I'm not running bikes past 9 o'clock during the weekday. I do roll in on Thursdays late because that's moped night. But no, I'm not. I'm when I say I'm a jerk, like I don't run them late. I don't run bikes late at night. I don't sit there and rev them on the stands ever in my
You're like
neighborhoods.
like a nice jerk.
I'm a nice jerk. Like granted, like I'll let them idle when I'm breaking in. I'll rev them sometimes, but like it could be a lot worse, neighbors. If you ever listen to this podcast, I could be a lot worse. Um, so like, where is, and that's the thing. Like, I always ask people, like, okay, you know this knowledge, you understand this. Like, when it comes to building motors, like, where did you? Was it just talking to other engine builders? Was it readings? Like, where did you kind of start to gain some of this knowledge? Like, that's kind of because I'm going through like trying to understand French tech more. Like, where's a good source to start to learn how to like volume versus RPMs versus all this stuff? Like, that's kind of the game I'm trying to play. Like, what cases should I get for a motor? Blah blah blah.
Well, okay, so there's a ton of cool books out there. There is I spent, I think it's probably about 2 years ago. Yeah, we've had, I've loved two stroke. I spent a lot of money testing and blowing things up. That's part of my education. And there's only been a few people actually that would be willing to share like the information, like for real. A lot
Yeah.
of the guys give like the information in twisted forms. And then later on, I would find out and be like, "Oh, why did they do that?" You know, I mean, but but probably, I mean, I have like a lot of history and trial and testing, and then I bought a dyno to do some confirmation, and then so. But as far as like the application of theory, um, it was uh, it was literally 3 years. I was during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it was like 3 years of being on the two stroke research page every day, day and night for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
At that, but and it's changed. So it's the page on Facebook. It's a two stroke research page,
Yep.
and it's changed because like 2 years ago, there were like really the historical people were chiming in,
Mm-hmm.
and and now there's like more people asking more simple questions. But back when it was really banging, Fritz Overmars, Jan Thiel, and many other people with way more experience and knowledge that I'll ever be. I mean, I don't have enough lifetime to ever understand what they've accomplished, but because I was listening to it for 3 years, day and night, and it was just this particular atmosphere, it blew away all the misunderstandings about and how the engines and what parts have to work with what. So I feel like I'm at the base, the very base, like of what those guys know. From here on, I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
do my development and testing and stuff like that. But forever, we didn't know that you don't use an advancing ignition, with an expansion chamber, and that's what we had back in the day. So then when auto retards came out, that was like a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people are going to back to stock pipes or box pipes, then not realizing that the way an engine works is that uh, the higher the RPMs with an engine, the less time it has to breathe, so compression goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these different things, it's like, okay, so whatever the application, you say, okay, if I have this application, I need to use this ignition, this pipe. And it wasn't for those 3 years that I finally got like heard it over and over and over in all these different applications, to where I was like, oh, okay, finally I get it. And so now it's like I can understand, when somebody's having a communication about an engine or engine issue or whatever, because it was like literally a 3 year day and night education
Mm-hmm.
with these historical great guys. It just turned a page for me.
No, and I totally hear you and respect that. Like, and there is a lot to be said about just wrecking shit. I mean, that's how I've learned a lot of stuff. And like, I can say for myself, and I'm still like this to a point with people, but like when I was new and I was even on more fire than I am now about bikes and motors and two cycles and stuff like that, I'd ask people all the time, and I get probably pretty annoying to a lot of people. But like, I somehow have become the Hobbit guy around here. It's just because I love hobbits and I understand how to make them go halfway quick. But now I'm trying to get into the French game a little bit,
Well, let
and
me ask,
like
what CVT are you using on your
uh
Hobbits?
the treat stuff. Like I've got I ran that on Baker's, and I'm running a stock bell right now that I cut the inside. I turned that I forget what I turned it to, but like I like I like the treat stuff. Like it's just get a few things figured out with it yet, but like Baker's, it was pretty good for me. I had some issues with shredding belts, but I think Andy and I've got that maybe figured out now. But like, um, yeah, I like that CVT system that it's been in development for a while because they want, how everything is there. Like they don't want to put out junk.
Well, I have the first generation, and so per Andy, I've modified mine. So, but I still have to go through and set it up. I have the red spring, and so what spring are you using?
I've had the best luck with the yellow spring on the, how they have that, and now a lot of people don't know what we're talking about, but like, I don't care. How they have that snap ring that's got two settings.
Yeah.
I go to the setting closest to the final drive and just have it like that. And yellow spring on that, and just make sure you keep the grease in. And yeah, it helps
Well,
it, like I tell people, it does give you a little better bottom end. It doesn't give you any more top end, but it's
no,
everything's balanced and smooth. That's the thing I really like about it.
the spring is your rate of acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
That's what governs your rate of acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what weights are you using?
Uh I would have to, it depends on what setup I've got. I want to say like I'm at 13 to 14 grams.
Okay.
Like
Yeah. Andy suggested that, but I think that's because I have the red, and that makes sense for the yellow. Because I think for my red, I'm gonna have to go heavier.
possibly. The thing I liked about the yellow where I have it placed is it helps with the downshift, because if you had that too far out, the down, it didn't want to downshift correctly, and I think that was maybe some issues with the last iteration of the rear pulley. And like, you know, it's it's fun to play with that stuff, but like, you don't know how many miles I put on that count. Remember that county road I was talking about? That dude, I've spent weekends just playing with that rear pulley and trying stuff and changing stuff. And like, that's why I jokingly always tell people, like, I'm over here on an island of myself, just, doing this thing. And I
Because
love,
yeah, it's the same thing in Fresno. I have a full shop. I had a dyno that my dyno. I still have the dyno, but the electronics died. But anyways, but there's nobody. There's nobody. There's nobody here. There's nobody. And we had a moped crew going, and this ding dong guy, I told these people, get fuel filters, clean your tanks, clean your carbs, and put fuel filters on. Nobody put fuel filters on. Every ride they went on, somebody would break down, and the guy convinced everybody that they were unreliable and could never be rideable. And everybody sold their mopeds. I'm not kidding. It was unbelievable. I was just like, oh, why don't you take 30 years of experience and listen to what I'm saying and use a fuel filter?
yeah,
And they're
what
nope,
you're, yeah, I can't believe people, you always run a fuel filter. Like, you have to.
they wouldn't do it. So our moped scene died like overnight.
Oh, that's rough, dude.
It is after I was like, and I mean, yeah. Anyway, so I'm the lone hobbit guy. And hopefully when I start riding it around again, it'll get people to bring mopeds out, because that's usually the way it happens.
Yeah. And I felt bad because, like, this coffee shop owner that he's wanted to get into mopeds really bad. I've sold him 2 hobbits. He's had both of them stolen. And he's
Oh,
locked it. And it's not like, one, he had a bad cable lock and like somebody just cut it. The second one, he locked it to a fence and they cut the fence and took the bike.
well, he's just got to up his game. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be discouraged. I wouldn't let somebody discourage me from riding, But
Well, he's looking to, and it was all near his apartment. He's like, when I get a house and a garage I can lock, I'll get a moped again. He go, because he's got the bug. I'm just like, I will set you up with someone to buy a bike. I'm not selling you any more bikes though, because I can't watch them get stolen anymore.
are you checking to see if they're showing up on the
Oh yeah,
marketplace or?
oh yeah. I mean, I'm looking at a few spots I think they might be, but yeah, I've looked at marketplace and that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see if they ever pop up. Yeah.
No.
But so you talk about some of your builds and stuff like that. What plans do you have, kind of, since the end of the year, our year is kind of not over, but like the riding season, at least Minnesota, it's about over. Like, do you have moped plans for 2023? Like getting out, doing stuff, or like what's a, yeah.
I mean, I would love to go to a ride. I mean, to a rally in Southern California. I would love to do that, and I would really like. I mean, my Hobbit, it should go together easy, and maybe I'll be contacting you about the setting up the CVT.
Mm-hmm.
Although I have like the first generation, so I don't know if it's going to even apply. I machined it. Huh?
I ran all the generations. They're all pretty similar-ish.
Okay, cool. Because I did try the 13, but I think that I might maybe have to go to a Yellow Spring.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'd really like to do is I'd like to put my 103 together.
Mm.
Benji gave me this sweetheart deal, so I have my I have made a trade for some scooter stuff to get a 103 engine that has a original 80s Melosi never run, and then it
Mm.
also has an original 80s Bigelow crank.
Oh, you got that golden touch there, boy. Like that's awesome.
Right. So then it's never been run,
Yeah.
and so I got some Melosi cases from Benji. I got some crazy rear pulley with a big clutch on it. I have a Doppler, one of the early ones, the variators.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I still got to get the ignition. I still got to get the pipe, stuff like that. I got the radiators, but I would really like to have that for a Southern California ride.
Yeah. Oh, it's like the 103 build I'm kind of thinking about doing. I'm just gonna go HBI and wire it like I do a Hobbit because then
Sure.
I can get rid of all the French wiring and just make it simple.
They have, I don't know if you've seen the ignitions that a lot of the MBK guys and the 103s use. It's a big, massive ignition. Have you seen that?
No, I am so ignorant when it comes to French stuff. Like
That's why. Yeah,
it's
that's why I don't even know the name of it. But anyways, but if you look like like the Tomahawk guy, he used to
mm,
race with these ignitions, right?
mm,
I'm thinking like, man, why would he race with an ignition that was so heavy?
mm-hmm,
Well, then it dawned on me back when I was working at High Rev Engineering, they did tests by putting weight opposite of the PTO.
mm-hmm.
So that the weight, because they were saying as the power is going out to the PTO, it causes the engine to deflect internally. But when
Mm-hmm.
you have a heavy flywheel on the other side, it keeps that crank spinning in a straight plane.
That makes sense. I read a bit of an article about that and like HPIs. I start running weights on them this year, and it just smoothed them out so much because that's all I run on my Hobbits is HPI mainly for the 12-volt lighting coil.
Right.
But I think Conan from Manic Mopeds brought it up to me, and then like Shane Johnson, who's a super big French guy, like they both. I don't know who said it to me first, but it was within the week, and like I just said, screw it, I'll try it, and it smoothed everything out. I mean, I lost maybe a touch, and I'm saying just a touch on the acceleration, but the bike idles better. It stays cooler. Like I feel the power band's more consistent. So like, yeah, if you're running HBI, I can't recommend the weights enough.
That's cool. So I can well, they would the direct drive kart engines that would come from Italy would
Mm-hmm.
come with weights to put on their ignitions.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that.
and I think it was for the rain. You know what? I don't know why my phone is not charging, and it just told me that. That's so weird. Okay, I guess
Well,
we're just gonna keep on going.
what percentage battery you got left?
It doesn't show me the percentage. It just shows me that it's red. And it's weird because I'm plugged in. I got an extension cord. I'm like, I don't understand.
Well, maybe unfortunately we might have to get wrapping her up, and Al will maybe have to have you back on and talk more theory about pipes and yeah, dude, I just love talking mopeds and like that's kind of been that's what the podcast has been an excuse for me the last 6 months is just talking about mopeds and reliving the Baker's experience. I'm gonna have Kelly, I believe, from Never DNF on. She's been a guest before, but I think she's gonna be on next week. We're gonna talk about their experience. Man, that team. You want to talk about some people with some grit? Oh, they had
Oh, wait.
challenge after
Uh,
challenge.
1 second. Your phone's not charging and it's plugged in. Look, dude. Tried it. Went through the whole thing. Sorry, we're going through checking this tactical difficulty.
All right, on dude.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. We got power. Thanks, Karen.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like, but hopefully I can. They're all having the big NOLA smog and mono ride in New Orleans this weekend, which I couldn't go this year. I wish I could be there. It's so
Oh,
much fun.
I
Like,
would love to go to out of state rally.
Yeah,
My
dude, flying to Minnesota. They're supposed to be having a casserolers are supposed to have a rally. We'll get you a loaner. Like, I've promised so many people like loaners out of my stable. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get some more bikes running. But yeah, dude, I'll figure something out for you.
I appreciate that. We got a crazy schedule coming up because we just got a new baby business that's starting.
Right on.
I'm hoping that in February, Pony from Lost Boys is having their last snot sickle in
Okay.
February. And I think it's like snot sickle 13 or something like that. Like they've been in for 13 years. So
Nice.
I would like I think he's gonna loan me one of his bikes. I'd like to get my Hobbit running for that. But yeah, and then he went up to the mosquito rally.
Okay, yeah, I saw some of the Lost Boys there. Yeah, nice guys.
Absolutely solid.
Yeah. No, casserolers, I think they have theirs sometime in June or July or something like that. But whatever, dude. I've got a lot of things before that I can even think about doing the in-state rally here. Um, but no, dude, I'm just excited about mopeds. Like it's just like what's to come and what I've done so far.
And,
Yeah.
and it's cool the stuff that Treats is still coming out with.
Oh, thank goodness. And treats and dose. Like dose I know had a whole bunch of stuff recast and sold. I think they just did a whole bunch of Minarelli stuff. And I
Wow.
cannot I just got some and I don't know if I did at the top of the show or not, but like dose is so rad. Like I got some new old stock wheels, some 103 wheels, like the 3-blade that I love.
Wow.
So like if anybody is looking for wheels, if you don't see treats like or whatever, support all the moped businesses, but definitely just email the guys at Dose. Like they will probably find them for you. Like Hobbits, Treats will have you covered. Like isn't that amazing what they did? They came out with the Hobbit mags again. They're going to be coming out with brake plates. It sounds like in November. Yeah, I'm really excited for all that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, dude, like now I'm getting all like thinking about next year already.
Oh, I was gonna say, have you checked out the South Florida Pook drag racing?
Dude, those guys are nuts. And here's the story about that. If you ever I knew about them like was it 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I knew all about that shit because like I went down there because I had my moped accident and I went to go see my mom for like a month or something like that. And I was talking to some people down there and like they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to this drag race." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And like I saw Tyrone and all those guys like talking about this shit. And I'm like, dude, that's nuts. And like I kind of just hit delete on my brain. Like I just didn't think about it, nothing. And then all of a sudden they start talking all this shit on Facebook, which is awesome. And then Jason on Moped Monday had him on. And I'm like, dude, I love these guys. Like everybody's falling for this hustle because like I think they're fast. I don't know if they're as fast as they think they are, but like, dude, they're freaking rad. I love and nobody can beat them yet.
Oh, Tyrone is on another level. Tyrone's been doing this since he was 13.
Yeah.
So I'm actually machining some cases for him.
You're not supposed to say that because it's all spray painted junk, right? As I wink. No, dude, he knows what he's doing. I'll say that.
Oh no, it's he's been doing this since he was 13.
Yeah.
So and so he raced until nobody could beat him, and then gave it up, and then he got back into it. But he is a true natural tuner. He can tune by ear. So that's like, and so I'm not sure what if he was doing it in the 8th, because if he runs the 8th mile, they'll run nitro. If they run quarter mile, they're running gas and maybe nitrous. So, but I think he's doing 78 miles an hour in the 8th and the quarter, because the 8th is on fuel. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, I could build a road racer, but a drag bike is another kind of experience because it's explosive. It is just barely holding back this thing from grenading.
Exactly. Yeah, dude,
And so
it's
he has the ability to remember all these things that he's tested and developed to get him where him and Cleveland. I heard Cleveland is also very, very smart
mhm.
about this. But those guys, there's like they brought a Hobbit out there, couldn't even touch it.
No. And like those guys, I listened to that episode of Moped Monday and I saw the stuff they do on Facebook. I know a street hustler when I see one. Dude, he's trolling everybody. Like, because if you're actually running nitrous or if you're running like nitromethane on anything, you have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to die. Like,
Yeah,
you
yes.
are going to seriously hurt yourself if you don't know what you're doing. Like,
That
and
is
they're holding bikes together. Yeah, they know what they're doing, people.
yeah. And it's funny because people assume for whatever reason that he doesn't know what he's doing. So when they show up, you can just see the shock in their face when they
Yeah.
hear the from these bikes, and it's just like it's because they think they have something fast in their neighborhood or wherever. They can be the fastest guy in their area, they can be the fastest guy in their state. But what Tyrone is doing is like magical.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
And
been
like
doing
I've never seen his bike. I don't know him from Adam, but like just seeing the stuff he's doing, like I said, like he knows what he is doing. Like is there faster builders out there? Probably, but
I
like
doubt not in,
you
not in not in drag racing.
yeah.
Now maybe road racing, sure, but road racing is a completely different application. We're talking about something that is explosive.
No, Al, you have a point there. Like, and that's what everybody's comparing them to. Like these guys who've been fast on the road, like for years. Like, yeah, that if you're doing 70 mile an hour in an eighth mile on a moped, damn, that's moving. That's moving.
That's a rocket.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, I've scraped 65 a few times, but that was a long run, and that
Right.
was optimal conditions. Like, and that was not an eighth mile. I promise you that. Like, yeah, dude, those guys, and I dig that they're got their thing going on down there, and like everybody else in America, I wish they'd be a little more north. But you never
Yeah.
know. Maybe go down. Maybe everybody goes down to that
Well, some guy from
rally
Ohio.
in Florida.
Well, some guy from Ohio went down there to race.
Yeah, Craig Scott, and like it sounded like he has learned a lot since then, and like I'm still not sold on those electron carbs that he was running. Like,
Was he running? Wait. Was he running an Electron or a smart car?
you know what? I can't say for sure.
It was a smart. It was a smart car.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I've seen some people try those on scooters and they just couldn't get them to work.
That's you need factory support because the factory has to make a needle for that application. And if they don't know that application, they're guessing. So then they rely on your feedback being very accurate so that they can make a needle for you for that application. We went through this with the vintage scooters.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen much of that 49cc scoot on YouTube?
Oh wait,
He-
are you talking about the? Wait, are you talking about the Scandinavian guy?
Nope. This guy is on the East Coast. I'll send you a link. It's 49cc Scoot. He's got a YouTube channel. He does his due diligence on testing, and he tried to get Electron Carb, one of those, and he couldn't get it to work. And he's if you like, I'll send you the link to the show.
Was it Electron or was it the
It
smart
was
car?
that was Electron Carb, one of those Electron ones that were kind of clear looking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But well, then again, too, the Electron. It's like if you don't know how to jet a Delorto, you
Yeah.
think a Delorto. It's like if you get a key in that's super easy to jet, you're gonna think that all the other carburetors are garbage. You have
Yeah.
to know, and like the Amel carburetors, that's what I was trained on. People hate them because what they don't know is that the British, for whatever reason, puts the air screw where the fuel screw goes.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are sitting there trying to adjust the fine tuning between their transition, they're doing it. It's going to absolute opposite. So it's driving them crazy. They think the carburetor's junk. So, but whatever the carburetor is, it's not a bad design. It just you have to understand the application and you have to communicate with the factory.
Yeah. And he was doing that. He was talking to them and they're sending him different needles, or metering rods, they called them, I believe. And like this guy is smart. Like the Ford, and like I said, I'll send you the link to his YouTube show. Like it's pretty cool. Like how he has like a spreadsheet is like breaking it down, like the times from like 100 foot to this and that and all that. And like that's why like I think those carbs probably work on a bigger CC bike, but I still it's just the same with like electronic. It's like feel um fuel injection on a moped. I don't know. I think that cylinder is just too small to get it to work correctly.
No, it's a fuel injection. That has to do with fuel pressure. So it's really almost has nothing to do with the engine.
Okay.
Uh, but as far as the metering rod technology, yeah, I could see. I mean, I've seen them use it. I've seen a lot of race bikes use them. But I've also seen a lot of race bikes use Delortos.
Mm-hmm. And
So
I'm a huge fan of the Polini carb, like it's which is basically the lower carb is what everybody's told me.
actually Polini carbs, Kahane.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a Kahane clone. And
Oh,
I believe he uses Kahane jets.
yep. Yeah, they do. Um, they use a OKO. No, they use the CP carb uses a OKO jet, whatever. Yeah. So yeah. But like I said, people like
Yeah.
I've never been so proud to go 35 miles an hour in my life going on top of a mountain outside of Red Lodge, Montana on Bakers like that. Talk about a tuner's challenge. But yeah, I don't know. Like it just mopeds and tuning are just I can't I have to kind of like when it comes to all that, I have to not focus on it too much because it comes easier when I'm not trying as hard.
Cool. Yeah, that's just you do better when you're relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
and the cool thing about when you master a moped, you can master a motorcycle
oh
or
yeah.
scooter, anything else. So it's like it's just such an awesome platform to learn on. And I mean, I've learned more about two strokes working with my moped.
Mm-hmm. They're a little cheaper, a little more forgiving, I'm thinking. But you can still spend plenty of money on a moped, don't get me wrong. Um, but Al, I think I've got to get going to bed. I appreciate you coming on. We'll have your show out probably it depends. Probably I'm thinking Wednesday we'll have this out. Definitely we'll stay in touch. I always appreciate the stuff you got going on. I can't thank you enough for coming on Second Chance Moped Podcast. And don't forget, Al, mopeds are dumb. Talk to you later, my guy. Bye.
Take care.